I've drummed it into our players that they are privileged to play for you.
Januarvinduet er åpent, stallen er tynn, og Arne Slot da, sitter han trygt? Det er det store spørsmålet. Hei igjen fra oss i Liverpool, Jens Bessesen, David Lynch, Mari Lunde. Vi sitter på Red Spar, altså like ved Exchange Flags, trivelig pub som man burde besøke hvis man er på Liverpool-tur. Masse Liverpool-effekter overalt. Men vi har ganske mange lytterspørsmål igjen som vi må gå gjennom, og I'm sure you can imagine the most asked question in our inbox. Arne Slot, is he safe? It's a question that's been asked by so many people that I'm not gonna say so and so asked it. Everyone asked it. But yeah, quick question: is he safe right now?
He is right now at this moment. I don't expect him to get sacked before the Arsenal game, I'll say that much. But
after the Arsenal game?
yeah, it depends how it goes, I suppose, yeah.
This goes out after the game.
No, but he is safe in the short term, absolutely. I think to be in a position where he wasn't safe now, between now and the end of the season, I think things would have to get as bad as they did, whereby it was 9 defeats in 12, and after the PSV result, I think if he'd been sacked there, I don't think he could have had any complaints. I don't think anyone would have been surprised. So he needs to avoid it turning that bad again, I think, between now and the end of the season. Because I think Liverpool's preference is, and it's my expectations, their preference is to get to the end of the season and then make a call. But obviously that means he's safe for now, barring it going terribly. But obviously that leaves the long-term future question open, and I think there's a lot of people don't want this to be a question, and you kind of get annoyed when you ask it or you discuss the manager's future as a topic, but it just undoubtedly is, because if it wasn't, he wouldn't be in the final 18 months of his contract now. If Liverpool's hierarchy were completely convinced that all the things that were going on, all the things that have gone wrong were purely, it's mitigating circumstances, it's the Jota situation, it's the high turnover, it's the change of the way that the Premier League is played at the moment. If he thought all those things were the only reason things were going wrong for Slot at the moment, they would have put a contract in front of him to sign. And that hasn't happened, and that shows you that, at the very least, they think the jury's out, and they need to see a little bit of what happens between now and the end of the season before they make a call on what happens on his future. So this little last bit of the season, last half, God, there's more. That is kind of a bit of a referendum on his future, and that's not just me saying it or us feeling it as supporters. It's that's the feeling internally, is that he's got to show something now to kind of make sure that he is the Liverpool manager for the season after this one.
I think it was reported towards the end of last season, and maybe at the start of this one as well, that they were preparing talks for a new contract. Do you know if that was the case?
Yeah, so that was the plan, is that the kind of outline talks had taken place kind of earlier in the season when things were going well, and then of course as soon as things started to go really badly, it was kind of shelved, and the manager basically admitted that to us himself in kind of the embargoed section previously, that had gone quiet, and that, you know, that's fine, we just need to get through this period. And they are still working through that period now. I'm not hearing anything about those talks being restarted. So again, it tells you something. It's not just people being negative online or people angling for clicks to suggest that there's some doubt over his future. It just really is a question at the moment. And as I say, with those talks not being resumed yet, it tells you they're thinking the same. So he has to prove something to them between now and the end of the season to get that new contract and to show that he's the man to take the club forward. And I think unbeaten run of 9 games might be an end by the time this goes out, but that can't harm his chances. But I still think there's more he has to show in terms of the style of football, the cohesiveness of it, the attacking output. Those are real boxes that need to be ticked for me, really, between now and the end of the season to keep his job going into next season.
But it's such a weird situation, because this is the season we all feared after Klopp left.
Yeah.
And then we got the title winning. Is this the real Slot, or did we see him last season?
Yeah, but what you could say is that he probably didn't do himself any favours in terms of the expectations around him. If he had this season the first time round, I think everyone would have said, okay, you know, fair enough, this is what we kind of expected to happen. It's going to take time for him to build, and particularly at this point, the midpoint of the season, you'd be saying, okay, we want to see kicking on now, but everything that had happened up to now, that's absolutely fine for a manager in his first season in the league with a new group of players. So maybe it didn't help him to win the league in a bizarre way. But that said, what I think kind of makes it different, and why I do think Liverpool are not just going to look at it as this is his transition season, it's absolutely fine that it is poor all the way through, or is not poor, it's average all the way through, generally speaking, if they finish 5th or 6th. I think they will pinpoint the decline in underlying performance back to the back half of last season. And we know they follow this closely, because that's why they said to Jurgen, didn't they, when they appointed him, we know your last season at Borussia Dortmund was a fluke because these were your underlying numbers, which were elite level, and you just got a bit unlucky. That's not happening here, and there's no mitigation in terms of, Liverpool have got injuries, but nothing outlandish and crazy that you couldn't put together a good football side. So I think they'll get to the end of the season and say, look, from basically kind of January, January of last season, the underlying performance started to dip, and you haven't righted it. And if he doesn't right it in the second half of this season, they'll say, that for us is enough evidence that it's not just the results, it's not just the surface level stuff that we're concerned about. It's that this is the level of your team now, once you've kind of got your claws into it. And that's what puts him in doubt, really. He has to right that. The underlying performance has to be better. And it would be nice if it looked a little bit better as well.
Do you think even the last 4 games of the season could be used against him then, when he sent the squad to Dubai and Ibiza?
But I think even if you take that out, even if you can see a clear decline in terms of XG for, XG against, and Liverpool will use deeper numbers than that, but I think they all will point to the same thing, is that Liverpool were not playing that well. I'd take out those last 4 games of last season. I talked about that a lot at the start of the season when he was getting criticised for that. I just think that's a nonsense. That it's absolutely right that they wrote those off and enjoyed the win, particularly with what came after, by the way, with Jota. Just showed you that you should soak every second of that up. But if you take those out, there's still, again, a clear dip that starts in the second half of last season, and it's still not been righted. So that will be, by the end of the season, if it doesn't right, it's going to be 18 months of kind of poor performance level, and those underlying numbers, they support everything. So for me, has to see some improvement there, and I would not be surprised if Liverpool do not see an uptick there, even if they finish 4th and you get in the Champions League. If the management availability situation in terms of options that are on the market is decent, and that Liverpool see good options, it would not shock me at all to see him dismissed at the end of the season, even if they got 4th, playing in this way.
Are there any names that...
Well, we have a name.
Well, 100% they're keeping an eye on what's happening with Xabi Alonso at Real Madrid, definitely, because he was someone they liked, they were tracking when he was at Bayer Leverkusen, so he came quite close to getting the sack at Real Madrid, didn't he, quite recently? So again, it's one of the reasons you wait to the summer. He might be on the market, things might go wrong for him at Real Madrid, and if they do, Liverpool will have a decision to make there. It's slot with these numbers, or we try this guy who we liked previously and would have liked to have got. Luis Enrique is that,
he's my favourite.
I saw those suggestions that he's not going to sign a new contract at PSG. Again, gives Liverpool a decision to make. If you get to the end of the season, Slot is there, things haven't improved, and Enrique is on the market, it's, this is part of the reason why they would prefer to wait, because things are going to look very different come the summer, and I think that's what kept Slot in a job after the PSV result. If Enrique had been available then, or Xabi Alonso, Liverpool would have at least asked the question. So those are a couple of names that I think you could put in the mix, and there will be more elite managers on the market in the summer, and so that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, because Sindre and I wonder how close he actually was to getting sacked after the PSV match, but...
Yeah, I think quite. Yeah. From speaking to people, I got the sense that West Ham game was massive, absolutely massive. I mean, if he'd lost that in the context of what West Ham were, or still are at the moment, the way they're playing, that it would have been, 10 defeats in 13. You can't lose that many as Liverpool manager. And again, people kind of rail against this. You don't like it being mentioned, and it's like, Liverpool don't sack league winning managers. Well, that might have been something he said in the past. It's totally new now. This is a new situation. FSG weren't in charge all those years ago, and as much as they are patient and they favour long-term thinking, as I say, at that moment the bleeding was so bad, and the underlying performance had been bad for quite a long time. they could have fully justified sacking him, and I from my understanding, it was a lot closer than people think. It was definitely something that was being talked about, discussed with senior players as a possibility. Obviously, he got some back in there, and he got through it, and he got that West Ham result, and things have improved since then. But it was close.
Lucky with the fixtures.
Well, imagine if he hadn't had West Ham. Yeah, exactly.
So Trygve wants to know what your personal opinion is on whether he should continue, or is he the right man for the job?
I think he, for me, I said after the PSV game that if he went, I think it would have been the right call. But equally, I'm not kind of wedded to the idea of he has to, you've got to get him out now. I've said it, and I'm going to be looking. I want him to make me look daft, by the way. I really do. I want him to, I want that to look like a foolish thing to say at the time over the next couple of years. But like I say, that underlying performance level is just there, and it's very, very clear to see that this is not a good football team at the moment, and it doesn't seem to be showing massive signs of getting better. So I'm kind of this similar thinking, really, to what I think the Liverpool hierarchy are. Try and get to the end of the season, hope that you can get into the top four because the teams around you are a little bit of a mess, but then have a real look at the market, and there may be better options out there for Liverpool in that moment, particularly if Slot hasn't kind of righted things and hasn't turned a corner. My view now is the best thing to do is to get to the end of the season, hope it's enough, and either way have a real debate about it. Then I think there will be better options on the market personally. I'm not calling for anyone to get sacked, but I just think the case by then, if the numbers don't improve, will be just too big to carry on, really.
I think we all should hope that he can turn it around.
Absolutely.
But if he goes, then he also deserves a good send-off, like not being shipped out the back door because he won the league. So impressive first season. So people should remember the good thing he did.
And this is why the debate around it doesn't need to get as kind of nasty as it does online as well. I think some of the things I'm seeing said and the way he's being talked about, to me, seems very, very unfair. Like I say, I make the case, and I feel like come the end of the season it would be probably best if they do part ways, but there's a way to go about that in the way you say it, and you don't have to make out that he's an idiot or completely clueless. This is a league-winning Liverpool manager. I think he deserves an awful lot of respect, even if I don't think that he's probably going to stay in the job in the long term. He will go down in Liverpool history for what he did there, and that day in May when they lifted the title and when they beat Tottenham, and the fact that the majority of that season was just absolutely joyous to cover and to be there and to see it all. So I'd like people to talk about him a little bit more respectfully, even if you think that it's not going to work out in the end.
That Tottenham is the happiest day of my life.
Yeah,
I've never smiled as much as I did that day.
Even the weather was like
it was the perfect day. Wow. Ok, da skal vi endre tema litt, snakke om januarvinduet. January window. Morten wants to know what you know about the January window.
It's a good question.
No, he's wondering if...
on the first.
Is there any hope of Semenyo is asking, but he's as good as ready for City, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't expect Liverpool to get in there now.
But Marc Guehi, what's likely to happen there, do you think?
I would be unbelievably shocked if he ended up as Liverpool playing in the January window, I'll say that much. And I had a conversation a couple of days ago about the prospect of City being involved, and I still get the sense of the preferences on the players' side to move at the end of the season, because of course that would be more lucrative. He'll have a lot of choices and options, and he can fully weigh them up. So I think the players' preference is to do that. I think Liverpool, if he was on the market in January, wouldn't get involved, and the one thing that can kind of change things and mean that he won't be an option for Liverpool in the summer is if City put an incredible sum of money on Palace's table, and of course an incredible sum of money in front of Marc Guehi, because that's what's going to have to force him, is that, okay, you're not going to have your pick of your clubs at the end of the season, but we will give you the massive signing on fee anyway. We will make sure that it's right for you and that you don't feel like you're missing out by not waiting. Because, it's not just that why he would prefer to move in the summer as well, by the way. It's because he's playing regularly, he's playing well, he's not having to go and learn a new system mid-season. And of course, for his England prospects and being a starter there, it's probably not that helpful rhythm-wise to go and make that move. So if you ask me now, my gut feeling is, from what I'm hearing, is that I don't think he will move in January. I really don't. But if he does, it'll be because City have thrown absolutely everything at it, and I don't think Liverpool will rival them in that case.
Yeah, I was going to ask if Liverpool wouldn't match that, would they?
No, because I think the expectation from Palace's side is that they want more than they got in the summer because it's mid-season, because it makes it harder to get someone. And we know Liverpool, they won't touch that with a barge pole.
Okay, Ole Christian says, I'm wondering what Liverpool will do if Chiesa is sold or goes out on loan and Harvey Elliott goes on loan somewhere else. It's looking quite thin up front. Could they buy another attacker?
That's why I don't think that Chiesa will leave on loan. I think if Liverpool were to accept anything, it would be a permanent solution, and even now, that would have to be something that gave them the scope to go out and get something, because they're really kind of, they need him at the moment. I know he doesn't start many games, but he plays a lot as a sub. So again, I fall on the side with that one. I don't expect Liverpool to let him go. I don't think either side that's interested, which is Juve and Napoli, will come up with a permanent. But even if they did, I just think Liverpool would prefer to get to the end of the season, because they need the bodies. They are really light up top at the moment. So there's a lot of noise around that one, and you can never say never, but it would have to be a pretty good deal for Liverpool to accept it now, and one where they felt it could, help them get someone else in maybe. And the prospect of that from an Italian team putting that sort of summer money in front here just doesn't seem likely to me, really, if I'm honest.
Would be good for him though to get in better shape for the playoffs and maybe the World Cup.
Yeah.
But until now, he's rejected playing for the national team. It's a weird kind of thing.
I get the impression that he just doesn't feel like he's fit already enough, and he's clearly kind of, fitness-wise, again, it's not something anyone will kind of talk about, but he's clearly dealing with something, I think, that's just not been right since he's signed for Liverpool, and he's not feeling like he's fit enough. So I think a move back to Italy is going to happen at some point, but whether it's this window, I'm not entirely sure, even though it might benefit him now. But I just don't think Liverpool are going to sanction it, to be honest. And on Harvey Elliott, by the way, quite interesting in the manager's press conference today that the press officer intervened on that question, and because the manager was being asked, well, what's happening? And he said, you should go and ask Villa. And the press officer intervened and said, look, he doesn't have a break clause. It's not up to us. So basically what's got to happen here is that Villa have got to actively send him back and probably pay some sort of financial penalty to do so. So that's all in Villa, the ball's in Villa's court there, really, in terms of what happens with Harvey Elliott. They've probably got to pay money to send him back if they're not going to buy him outright, so that's up to them.
Slot gets criticised, I see, at least on social media, for the way he responds to these Elliott questions. Like he almost has forgotten about him and doesn't care about how he's getting on, but everyone felt in the summer that it was a permanent transfer. That's what the case was.
As far as Liverpool were concerned, it was. I mean, like you say, that, I mean, for them to say today he doesn't have a break clause, it's not on. We are not necessarily his parent club in this moment, even though technically it is a loan. The expectation was that he would go, and so it's completely up to Villa to sort that out. And I don't think Slot is being negative to the player to kind of say that, or to suggest that it's out of his hands. It really is. I don't think he's being dismissive in saying that. It's just a strange situation.
It's a strange deal. 10 games is not a lot of games, and then it's brutal then when they don't actually want to buy him.
But maybe Emery didn't want him.
Very much a sporting director signing, which is not helpful, I think.
No,
but
not for
Liverpool
him.
could need him now, at least with the injury situation.
I wouldn't be against him coming back and being an option there. I mean, the manager didn't play him very often anyway, and I guess what he would say is that kind of central attacking midfield role that Elliott would probably favour. He's got a lot of options there. Florian Wirtz, Szoboszlai, both fit at the moment. Both, Wirtz definitely getting better, and Szoboszlai obviously probably Liverpool's best player at the moment. So he's probably not short. And again, on that right hand side, Salah's coming back. You've got Chiesa, Frimpong. It's hard to make a case for him getting games anywhere. I don't think he can play centre half.
But especially since he's not played this autumn either. So, Inge wants to know, do you have a dream signing this window?
I think if they could get Guehi, that would be fantastic. I just don't think they will. No. I think centre half is just it's a concern. I think not just that Joe Gomez will probably pick up another injury, but Konaté's form has been in and out, and I'm a big defender of his. I think he's had a poor half season, I would say. But I think the majority of his Liverpool career has been very, very good. And I think for continuity's sake, it would be good to sign him up again. I don't think this is his level. But equally, to have more competition there, someone who could genuinely challenge him, someone who could come in and out, and you could maybe kind of just take Canate out of the firing line for a little while, it would be helpful. And I think Guehi would give you that progression from the back that Liverpool are massively lacking as well. He would, for me, be an ideal signing, albeit my only concern as well with him is that Liverpool are just facing long balls every week and he's not the strongest aerially, so how that would work out, I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't mind a progressor being signed at the back, or as an alternative maybe like a Nico Schlotterbeck, but if that's possible in January, I don't really think so.
Do you have a dream signing? We don't like signings, do we?
I don't like signings. Too many of them.
Yeah, it's been too many.
Can't scream about signings after that summer.
Yeah,
Shouldn't have sold so many players, maybe. Could have used Kwanzaa or Elliott, maybe.
Because Eirik wants to know what we can expect from the summer window after the summer window. No, but I think he means like the summer window that's just been spent a fortune. Is anything actually going to happen? And
yeah, much quieter, much quieter. One of the reasons you could easily predict it was going to be busy this summer that's just gone as well, though, is not just because Liverpool were going to add players, and I didn't see the Wirtz signing coming at all, if I'm being honest, or Isak really. But one of the reasons you knew it was going to be busy is because there were so many candidates to be shipped out that were going to go. Obviously, Elliott, Kwanzaa, Nunez, Diaz. They were all being trailed, and it was very clear that a lot of them wanted to go very early in the situation. So you knew it was going to be busy. Whereas this time, there are some departures that are going to come. I think Chiesa will go, for example. It's a really obvious one to say. Keep an eye on McAllister's situation. Obviously, Canate could go on a free transfer. So there's going to be a few. But they're not going to be. I don't think it's going to get into the realms of signing 6, 7. Thank goodness, because I don't think that's helpful to sign that many players. So a lot quieter, I'd say.
Can I just ask about Robertson, because he's on an outgoing deal as well?
Yeah, I'd be amazed if he signs a new one. To be honest, he was really considering the move to Atletico Madrid, and I think with everything that happened, and then feeling like he went to be a senior player in the dressing room, but he wants to play more football. So I expect there's no expectation is in contract talks or anything will be done there. I think he will go.
Probably need a new left back then.
Well, exactly, yeah. But I guess what you could do is if Tsimikas wants to stick around, he'll come back, and he has been the backup. Yeah. So that would kind of make sense, wouldn't it? Be the backup to a Kerkez makes a lot of sense to me, but they'll have options there.
So Gustav wants to know what went wrong in that summer window. But we have kind of touched on it, I guess, already. But he's asking, should the Isak money have been invested differently, maybe?
It's fine for us to say that now, in the sense that because he's injured, he's not given us very much, and you say, okay, well, that was a pointless signing. But I think in the long term, they make these signings for 5 years, and let's judge that one a little further down the line. And I would say every other signing, I think you could say so far has shown real signs that will be a success.
It doesn't feel like the new signings are the problem.
Yeah. Maybe. So I don't look at any of them and think they've signed a bad player here, or one who won't be useful to Liverpool. I think the biggest problem was just that it was so much, and that they maybe did let. The Diaz one's an interesting one. It's a great sale in isolation. Yeah. You can't get away from that. It's the smart move to sell him at the height of his value there. 2 years remaining on his deal with the age he is. And he does only look quite this good because he's in a weaker league. He wasn't doing this for Liverpool. But of course, was Gakpo and Ngumoha enough down that left-hand side, when you do that? And you would say probably not. But again, so difficult to make these calls. And if you do sign a dedicated left-sider, are you then blocking Ngumoha, which I don't think Liverpool should do. I think he's going to be massive for them. So these are really tough decisions. I think if there's one thing I would have maybe liked to see them do is, could they have forced Chiesa out the door because the manager clearly doesn't fancy him massively, and then got a versatile winger who could play either side, who was a bit more senior, who wouldn't entirely soak up Ngumoha's minutes, but gives you an option on the right as well? Would that have been the smart move, really? I think that's one area you could look at. But I think the biggest problem has just been, it's just created this transition because there's so many signings at once, but possibly unavoidable. You could argue it was to an extent.
I think going into the season with Gakpo as the first choice left winger was a mistake.
Yeah, Jens is not the biggest fan of Gakpo, let's put it that way.
Who is?
No, but he's a very good player. But
I have nothing against him in that way, but I don't think he's elite
yeah, to have him as one of two very good players who you could switch in and out was perfect.
It worked well, didn't it?
Yeah, because Diaz wasn't always on it, and sometimes Gakpo would replace him and score a goal, and vice versa. And that was the ideal situation, like you say, where you're in a situation where Gakpo is taking the majority of your shots now, I think he's right. I'm right in saying it was certainly the case a few weeks ago. He's taking the most shots in the Liverpool team, and you're funneling a lot of play through him. He's not good enough to be that guy, I don't think, and there is a reliance on him because you don't want to throw Ngumoha in. So, yeah, that feels like a mistake. Like I say, if they could have shoved Chiesa out and maybe got someone who can play either side to just balance that out a bit, that might have been a good option.
I'm very glad you're talking about Ngumoha now, because that's the perfect bridge to where we're going. Last topic of all of this. The last 24 hours or so, obviously this is going to be released in the weekend, so early this week there were rumours all over social media that there's a civil war raging between Richard Hughes and Arne Slot regarding the use or lack of use of Rio Ngumoha. Is there any truth to that?
So I probably wouldn't say this on other podcasts because this is just going out to you guys. I can be honest about it. I think that's nonsense, to be honest. From what I understand, I mean, for starters, the idea that Ngumoha should be, he's played a decent amount of minutes. I would have liked to see him maybe pick up another 100, 150 minutes, but I think anything on the other side of that is too much. Yeah. He was 16 at the start of the season. There are the case to bring him on 20 minutes earlier in some of the games this season, but this idea that Liverpool should have been more reliant on him and used him, I don't buy into that. And this civil war going on behind the scenes, anyone I've spoken to has kind of shot that down completely. And I'm interested to know where that comes from as well, because I don't think that's the players' side of things. I don't get the impression from his camp that they are the type to make those kind of inflammatory statements. So it's an interesting one to me. But the fact is this: if there was a civil war ongoing behind the scenes at Anfield about Richard Hughes sitting the manager down and saying, you are not playing these young players enough, we want to see more of Inyoni, we want to see more of Ngumoha, why aren't you doing this, and really getting into it and it being as escalated as that and as angry as that as it made out, he would have lost his job by now. Because it's not like the results are like unbelievable or the performances are unbelievable. So you throw those things in and then he's outright defying the sporting director, he would have just sacked him. Yeah. So the idea that, and people get very dramatic when things are not going great on the pitch in terms of it, they do try and build it up, and someone will get a tip from an agent whose young player is maybe not a little bit happy and then just spin it into this crazy story. And I think that's what that was. I don't like to shoot down other people's work, so I will just do it privately in this environment. But I just thought, very much over the top, that reporting, and I'd say anybody that I speak to at Liverpool has not got that sense. Maybe one aspect to that, I think there was disappointment about the manager not turning up to that youth showcase, and I think that's fair, but of course that did come at a period when it was really bad and he was trying to save his job as well. So
when was it?
I think it was a few weeks ago, so in the midst of, they were just coming out of the bad run, but so he had a lot on his plate, to be fair. You would love to see him use young players more, but is this the right environment this season to do it?
That's just into the Wolves.
Exactly.
In a way, but I remember Klopp used Ben Doak a lot in the bad 22-23 season. So it's also an opportunity to give hope or some kind of they're being.
But if Slot does that with Ngumoha and it doesn't quite go that well, people will say he's hanging him out to dry, won't they? Especially the people who only want to say negative things about him. So, and they are out there, and that's why so many kind of bought into that story, is that they liked the idea of it. But like I say, if there was a civil war ongoing now, the manager would not be in a position, because his position is already weak enough. So to throw in all that, maybe they do want to see him use the youngsters a little more. But it's not quite a civil war, I'd say.
Yeah, Matthias wants to know why Ngumoha doesn't get more chances, and he thinks that if he was Dutch, he would have had more chances.
I read it. If he was named Rio Ngumoha.
But what is your theory on his lack of playing time? Is it just that he's too young, basically?
Well, I don't think Gakpo's 17, is he? So this is the thing. It's not. I think they've got to be careful with him. Yeah. He was 16 at the start of the season, so he's not just 17. It's like he's very, very young 17, and the argument's made, isn't it? And I think rightly so, that he's played more minutes than anyone in his age group in all competitions than anyone else in the Premier League who's in his age range. So he's already the top of that tree. He's already seen as the elite, and Liverpool are using him in that regard. But you can't throw him into these situations too often. Where I'd have loved to have seen him a little longer against Leeds, maybe another 15 minutes or so. I think the game at Fulham at the weekend, he doesn't get on. I would have liked to have seen him in that a little bit more. But we are splitting hairs here, and like I say, for anyone who would think he would be doing a lot more than that, I don't think it's fair to expect that from the player, and I think the manager's trying to kind of manage expectations and also what he's putting on him. Because let's not forget as well that we've had a lot of young players at Liverpool with back injuries and problems, been overuse, so they've got to be careful with him in a physical sense as well. So yeah, I don't, I'd like to see it just a touch more, but not too much more. And I think the idea that that's led to an all-out war behind the scenes is a little bit much for me.
I think we've seen examples. I can think of Ansu Fati maybe from Barcelona. He's nowhere now, but he played a lot when he was 16, 17. So I think Lamine Yamal is probably the only one in that age group who's played a lot. And let's see how that goes over the years. Yeah.
So Sujavan wants to know what the club's current thoughts are around the academy and the lack of playing time for youngsters. Are they unhappy about it?
No, I think there's kind of an acceptance of what they've got and what they're going to get through. So, they want to see Inyoni get close to it now. Of course, Liverpool are fairly, well stocked in midfield, so that makes it difficult. When you've got a very good squad, it's very, very hard to get in. But him and Ngumoha are the two that there's an expectation that they will impact the first team, or there's a hope that they will. I think sometimes expectations are so high around this. Like, you can't, if you've got two lads there who you think are going to be first teamers, and there's big expectations around both of them, particularly Ngumoha, it's almost a certainty to me if he keeps signing contracts, he will be a big player for Liverpool. Inyoni is getting there, but it's a position where I think Curtis Jones is showing he needs to be a bit older. A lot of it's going to take time, and throwing him in now, it's probably not fair to him. So I think there's big expectations around those two. Now, if you've got two players that you're doing that with, that's pretty good. Like, who else has got that? You know what I mean? Who's in that age range, who's doing that? There's a few that are coming through at the moment. Josh Arbe, if he signs a contract, that's an interesting one. But there's big expectations around those two. But you're only going to get. You're not going to bring someone from the academy every year, are you? It's not realistic. And I think this idea that. Klopp did give some kind of token minutes out in the midst of an injury crisis, and he would play like Bobby Clark away at Nottingham Forest and things like that, and that was brilliant. But it didn't actually amount to many of them getting through to the first team, did it? I mean, he brought Curtis through, he brought Trent through as genuine full-time options. Harvey probably similar, but this was over this course of kind of 8 or 9 years, however long it was. So you're only going to get so many through at a time, and Slot is only 18 months into the job here, and it's like everyone's expecting he should have like 5 youngsters in his squad and in the team already, and it's not realistic. It takes time, and you don't get that many through from your academy anyway. So if he can keep developing Ngumoha for however long he stays, by the way, same with Inyoni, Liverpool will be happy with that, because they know that getting 2 through at the same time, or 1 or 2 here and there, that's the game, really. Yeah,
that was the last question, but I have one final question, actually. Gerrard, interim manager. Thoughts?
I've heard a suggestion that that's not possible because of the terms of his departure from Saudi. So whether that would cost him a significant amount of money, although the sense with Stevie, I think he would take it anyway, because he loves Liverpool. For me, not a situation Liverpool want to find themselves in, really. I mean, I absolutely love Stevie to bits, but obviously he's not that. I think Slot's CV is much better. So, if you were to make that change, you are just hoping for that little bit of a bump. And if you ask me now, who's the safer manager to take Liverpool to the end of the season, more likely to get them top 4? For me, I would say Arne Slot. I don't know what you guys think. So that's where I am with it at the moment. I'm not sure Stevie really should be in the mix for being Liverpool manager, even probably on an interim basis.
I don't want Slot out, so I think he should continue unless it goes really bad. But if they were to sack him, then I could see Gerrard the mantle until we get a real replacement in.
Yeah, I mean, if it does get really bad again, you might just think, just something to get us over the line, to get us to the end of the season, just we have to make the change now to stop the bleeding. Maybe, but I don't think they would do it with the expectation it's going to become anything long term.
So if we now, because this will be released on the weekend, if we've lost like 5-0 to Arsenal.
5 corners.
Is Gerrard taking us into the FA Cup match on Monday night?
I think the Arsenal result, I think they would have baked that in already, that they kind of expect it's going to be a bad one. And you know, this to me is not a game where Slot's job can kind of come. It would have to be 10-0 or something for it to come under threat. I think there's an acknowledgement that there's such a gap between the sides at the moment that it's probably fine to go there and get beat, unfortunately. But if you lost to Barnsley, maybe that's a different discussion. And maybe that again is where you start to get to the point of, you know, we put the whole case together. Maybe something has to change. So yeah, I think he's all right for Arsenal, to be honest.
Sånn. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. Takk for at dere har lyttet og sendt masse bra spørsmål. Det var helt konge, så takk til dere også. Ha det bra.
Ha det bra. Up the Reds.
Thank you. I had to just throw that one in there.